Good afternoon.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever anybody else is actually deciding to watch this, Elaine. Thank you very much for joining me today. And just going to briefly chat with you about your history, what it is that you do, and how life is going for you currently in Portugal with everything. So first of all, welcome, Elaine Godley. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me.
So do tell me, I mean, we have met before and met each other in networking events and everything like that when you lived in the UK. But as usual with anything, you always think, I'll speak to them next time. And when I've got more time, I'll speak to them next time. And I mean, really right now, the beauty is we have the luxury of time, something one can never buy, no matter how much money's in your account. So I'm making the most of it, getting to know you a little bit better. So do tell me a little bit about yourself and your credentials, who you are, what drives you to do what you're doing, and what's going to continue to do so to make a life for yourself in Portugal.
Okay, well, we only got half an hour, so it's very difficult to fit 63 years into half an hour.
I know. This is where your creativity comes into it now, Elaine, because you know what it's like. You know what it's like to be under the cosh. You're a radio presenter on Elastic FM as well, so you know what it is to be under the timer. So I'm not having any of that. You can do it.
Actually, it's funny, as we speak now, my show is on now. So
it's online.
Yeah, it's online now. Yeah. Okay, so as I said, 63 years old. I have a master's degree in legal practice. I've been chief executive of a legal firm. I've been chief operating officer for Ernst & Young, ran one of their consulting divisions in London, had over 220 staff. But before then, I only had about 12 years in corporate in my life. I started my first business when I can't remember now, I was 21 or 22, I can't remember. But after leaving school at 16 with not very much of anything, and I used to bunk off school quite often, couldn't be doing with it. I just, what's the point? I wasn't learning anything that I thought was going to be useful. So I went into London, got myself a job, and I just didn't turn up for school one day. So 5 years of doing a variety of different things. Then I met my second husband to be, and we started a business, and it was in kitchens, design, installation, and I was going on building sites teaching fitters or teaching carpenters. There were no such thing as kitchen fitters. This was in the late 70s, early 80s, and I was showing them how to fit kitchens, and that was really interesting. I can walk along the River Thames now and show you all the buildings that we put kitchens in. They were doing lots of what do you call those, warehouses in the Docklands. They were converting old warehouses into fancy apartments, and we did quite a few of those. We did some fancy projects for Harrods. Harrods sold the kitchens, and I was project managing the installations, and I could be managing up to 10 fits in a week. One minute I might be on a building site, next minute I might be with Lord and Lady Toff, next minute I might be with an East End gangster. So it was really interesting. Very good for learning all about how to deal with people and so on. So that was we did that between, as I say, 78, 79, 80, something like that, until 86. Had a very, very good lifestyle. When I look back now, it's pretty obscene. Fancy cars, casinos.
I was going to say, you must have lived like a millionaire.
We did.
You must. Yeah, you must have done.
It was
great. Yeah.
I've given many talks in schools over the years, and I've said we did have a very, very much in those days, compared to today's. Obviously, it's different, but in those days, it was a kind of a very millionaire type of lifestyle. Although we were not millionaires.
So would you say? No. So would you say you were living la vida in the yuppie days?
Yes.
When
very much.
Yeah. So you lived the yuppie lifestyle, right? Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So I'd be driving up into London for a meeting with Harrods, one of the buyers or designers in Harrods. I'd be parking up outside the Hyde Park Hotel, giving my keys to the valet, and the car would disappear, and then it would come back all nice and shiny. I'd go in there and have a
oh my God,
and whatnot. I mean, it was really, and bearing in mind I was early 20s, so
wow.
I had a nice figure then. I'd got long blondish hair. I was quite snazzy in my sports cars.
Strutting your stuff, yes, yeah. I bet you were.
However, I didn't have the confidence to carry it off. And although I had fancy sports cars with convertible roofs, I very rarely had the roof down because I couldn't cope with the wolf whistling and all that stuff. Now,
Oh.
bring it on. Yes, please.
What were you driving then? Because I'm a massive car nut.
TR6.
I love my sports cars. I love my Prestige. Oh wow.
Yeah, TR6. Yeah, I've
And
had so many
was
sports
like
cars over the
part of
years.
the
I've had
day.
yeah, fancy sports
Mine
cars.
would have been one of those Mercedes, the ones that used to drive in heart to heart. She had a lemon one, didn't she?
Yeah,
I would have had a white one, like Dempsey and Makepeace.
Yes, yeah. I've never had a Mercedes sports. I do drive a Mercedes now, but it's not a sports car because I have to be. Oh, the sun's gone in. You can see here, even though I've got
But I can
lights
still
on,
see
the
your lovely
sun's
face.
shining.
Oh yes, yeah, still see you.
So anyway, 1986, 7, it all went wrong, and I found that husband of the day was a raging alcoholic, and I'd had quite an abusive. What do you call it? Domestic abuse that had been going on. Nobody knew about. I hadn't spoken to anybody, and it all came to a head.
How old were you when that started? How old were you when that was becoming a part of your life regularly? Then
yeah, I was probably, well, it finished in 1989, so I was 32 at that point. So probably 20 between. It took me 4 years to break away, because by that time we'd had a child, and so I became a single mum, and a single mum in the 80s was not what you wanted to be. Nobody. I didn't know any single mums. My daughter was the only person in her class that had a single mum, blah blah. But I carried on working. So he strangled me and left me for dead in January 1989. So even though it had taken me 4 years, and I'm a strong woman, and I was a strong woman then, but nowhere near as strong as I am now. But it still took me 4 years to escape, as it were, because we'd lost the business. Everything went completely wrong. One of us had to get work because we were living the high life, and we were spending the high life money. So we didn't have any savings or anything like that. So I went into London, got myself a job as an administrator for a firm of accountants. And long story short, in the next 12 years, I got headhunted. I became a name, if you like, in the city, in the field I was in. I was lecturing to lawyers and accountants all over the UK. I was vice chair of a national institute, all to do with the legal profession.
And where did all this come from? Because you said you left school with no qualifications.
I know.
You haven't mentioned going back to uni. You haven't gone to uni or anything.
Yeah, well, I haven't got to that point yet. I hadn't done the uni bit. I was doing all this. I was doing all this on common sense.
Wow.
And balls, basically.
Sounds about right.
So one of the roles I did, I was head of credit management and a finance department for a firm of lawyers, one of the big city magic circle firms, and I saw an MBA advertised in the Law Society Gazette, and I read it through. I was getting bored. I told them when I was headhunted to join them, it would only take me 18 months to solve their problem. After that time, I'd be looking to go up or out. So almost to the month, 18 months, I'd done what they wanted to do, the project that I went in to sort out. And I saw this advertisement for the world's first MBA in legal practice. You had to be a lawyer, a barrister, you had to be in the legal profession for so many years, and you had to have a first degree. Well, I didn't even have an A-level, and none of those other credentials.
Yeah.
When I looked through, I thought, well, I can do this. So I phoned up. One of the professors came. I'll never forget. It was the 23rd of December, 1994. Came down to the firm, interviewed me, and we'd not got very far into it. And he said, "We'd love you to have you on the course." Then there were only 38 people worldwide that were on this program. He said, because you've got world experience to bring, you've run businesses, none of the people on the course will have run a business, but you've got a perspective that you will be able to bring. And I ended up actually lecturing on 2 topics to all of the other
Wow.
all these people that were
That's
hoity-toities, double-barreled names.
that's it. Do you know what? I still think that's doable today. I still think experience resides very much more so over any piece of paper that says you've got a qualification. And I'm not just saying that because I haven't done any sort of degree or anything like that thereafter. I still think it is the case.
It is.
Common sense is just exactly what you need in life, nothing else.
If only we could
So,
bottle it, but sadly we can't.
So carry on with that. Fast forward then to.
So I did a master's degree. So I, at that time, my son was 4 months old, my daughter was 12, and my husband of the day was a musician. So he was kind of keeping the home fires burning, as it were. I was working silly hours in the city. So I was working, I don't know, probably 10 hour, at least 10-hour days, coming home.
That's the thing.
And my travel, I had to work out where I was going to get time from. So in those days, I watched the telly, I watched the news. I read various different newspapers, 3 different types of newspapers going in and out of London, because I needed to be on top of the financial situation in London for my role. I needed to know what was going on generally to be able to talk with these hoity-toity people who thought, you know, I was not. Well, they originally thought I was, you know,
worthy.
Yeah, worthy. That's it.
Did you enjoy?
Oh, what?
Yeah.
What
did you enjoy reading them papers? Did you enjoy reading those papers, or was it just a chore to have to do something?
Yeah, it was a chore. I felt I was on the hamster wheel, so I had to be able to say something, you know, be able to talk semi-intelligently with some of these people. And I was reading the Financial Times, the Main Times, the Evening Standard. They were the 3 newspapers that I read. So they weren't like red tops or anything like that.
So you were, so you were living in London, I'm guessing now, were you? What area were you living in then?
I was living in Essex. I was living in Buckso Hill in Essex at that time. And
so that's an hour at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Commute.
So what I did, I had to find time for my studies, because I'd got, you know, a family, and I had 25 staff in the department. I was running meetings with lawyers and barristers and all sorts. You know, little old me. I call it my Up Yours MBA, because I did it to show I was ready. I did it for me, but I did it to show them, you know, as well. And I ended up the only person in the whole firm with an MBA legal practice, and to this day there are very, very few. They've actually stopped doing it now, 20 something years later, whatever. They've actually stopped running that course. And now a year they subsequently they divided it into diplomas and certificates, because they said it was too tough, but I did it. So I'm very, very proud of that. Very proud.
I bet you are. So what made you decide that living in London and that life down south was no longer for you? I guess you moved straight towards up towards Nottingham then, did you?
No. I'm actually was born in Chesterfield, and all my family are from mining stock in a village called Renishaw, northeast Derbyshire, which is the next village to where the radio station is. So I've kind of gone round in a circle, kind of gone home. My dad was a police inspector, or he went through the ranks to be a police inspector. So he decided he wasn't going to go down the mines like the rest of his family. So in 1960, when I was 3, we moved down to London to live with my grandparents, who were living in Chingford, where I was brought up. So I was brought up in Chingford, which is on the edge of London and Essex. So East London, Essex, I'm very, very familiar with, and I've lived in lots of places there. So I went.
So you came back up to?
I came back up to Derby originally. I lived at Melbourne for a while, because things weren't going right. I'd come out of my city job. I actually walked out. I had a city job. I walked out. I was just so fed up with all the corporate nonsense. So I literally walked out. I was having chief operating officer conversations in the office, and then I was taking people around to the pub, the wine bar, the coffee bar, whatever was suitable for them, having an Elaine conversation. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. And I literally walked out. I had a meeting with my CEO, and we fell out big time, but subsequently we're friends. But at the time it was horrendous. And 16 senior managers walked out after me. for various different reasons. But that's why being true to yourself is so important. And this is what, I know you talk about. You have to be true to yourself.
Massively authentic.
If you're not authentic, you're doing yourself a great disservice and the people around you, and it's affecting your health big time. So it was no surprise years later when I got cancer, and as I think you know, I had four lots of cancer.
Yeah, so you've yes, you definitely are a tough cookie, because it's something you've had to endure and defeat 4 times, like you said. So where has now, currently you're living in Portugal. What made you move from the UK to Portugal, and what are you doing there as your sort of way of earning a living?
Okay, well, you can see from the backdrop here, I'm actually living in a caravan right now, which is amazing, because I've been from, fancy houses, and here I am with very few possessions in a caravan, and it's wonderful. It's so kind of freeing. I'm here with a friend. There's actually 5 of us. It's a bit of a kind of a hillbilly sort of setup here, but it's really good. I was invited by a friend, Maggie, who I met networking. Actually, we've worked out, we think it's about 23 years ago we met in Essex. I was involved with the Chamber of Commerce in Harlow, and we think that's where we met. Anyway, she's lived out in Portugal and Gibraltar for 15 plus years, and I came out to visit a couple of years ago, and she said, please come out here. She said, we need you. We've got these projects that are bubbling. We're not ready yet, but please think about it. The time wasn't right then, but subsequently my son left home. He's gone to university now, so it was just me at home. And she says, right, gotcha, come on, come out. So I came out November, December last year to kind of assess what was what. The 2 projects that I came out to help her run have now turned into 9. So it's life very exciting. So we're building an eco village. That's one project. Another project is we're building giant greenhouses, and we're going to be growing organic foods using hydroponic methods. And we've got other things that are bubbling, which I can't tell you about. They're top secret, and I'd have to kill you if I told you what they are. So but suffice to say, they're very exciting.
So, well, you can see in your face that you're really excited by it. So obviously it was the right thing for you to do. Now, how have you left life in the UK? Have you sold your house? Have you got rid of all your belongings with no desire to return back here? Are you done and dusted with the UK now? Is this your next and final chapter in your life now? Because obviously we're all coming into these moments in our lives. It's like, personally, I think I'm in the middle of the 3 chapters of my life, and and then moving into, after 55, moving into my final chapter. So is this where your end of days will come?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be living here for forever now. I haven't finished with the UK. I've got family and grandchildren over there. I should have come back in May, but Ryanair cancelled the flight. I should have been coming back in June, but I suspect that's going to be cancelled because apparently they're not starting their flights again until July now. So, yes, I will come back with some forwards. It's likely that I will take residency later on this year in Portugal, but at the moment I'm keeping all options open. I love the lifestyle. The weather is bizarre. One minute it's absolutely throwing it down. We've had a thunderstorm today, and also I had to change because I was too hot. So the weather it can change in a heartbeat at the moment, but apparently that's not normal weather. Everything like in the world is upside down at the moment.
It is
weather.
Indeed. And so touching on that, as we've said before, like I've sort of created a space now which is all about people who are in their field and leading in their field or their chosen path in life. It's up to us as human beings to take responsibility, to express ourselves in a way that is as a way shower would be. So it requires authenticity and transparency. And for me, having this group is all about encouraging people to show responsible expression as an authentic leader. What does that look like to you? If I said to you, are you a responsibly expressive, authentic leader? And what do you do to show that that's what you are?
I think it's a case of leading by example. and developing our own tribe, helping people, supporting people, inspiring people. I don't normally use the leadership. I normally use the inspirational word, because you can't lead people if they're not inspired by you. And with behavioural profiling, I'm blessed with a very strong and resilient behavioural profile type, which is I use the DISC model, and I'm a DI. My D and my I are extremely high, and my S and my C are very low. So for those people who understand the DISC model of behavioural profiling, that will make sense. To people who don't understand, haven't learned about it yet, it's about being direct, and I'm often accused of being too direct. I say it as I find it, you know, I don't beat about the bush. Life's too short, you know. So that's the D, but it's about being in control, doing things. It's an active doer, and it's a leadership style. The I is about being inspirational and influential and all this sort of stuff, and being people. So I've got a really nice combination of people orientation and getting things done, and that served me. And I'm sure, or I know for sure, that's one of the reasons why I got through stage 4 cancer. I was given a year to live 5 years ago. So that resilient nature that I have naturally has served me well through so many scenarios over the years. And life, they say, is character building, but you need to be able to live your true life. You need to be able to live through your own behavioural strengths and identify what your behavioural strengths are as early age, which is why now, alongside the projects, I'm launching my own DISC profiling software, which fingers crossed will be actually launched this week. It's all very exciting.
Wow.
I'm offering that free of charge to schools, on the basis that I train people how to interpret it and how to give feedback, but I want to make it available to schools and colleges so that they know, the young people know who they are as soon as possible, so they don't have to do what I did. If I'd have known that I had an entrepreneurial leadership behaviour style, I wouldn't have started my own business when I was 21 or 22. I might have done it when I was 16.
Sooner.
Oh yeah,
yeah. You think, as a 16-year-old though, if you haven't got the support around you, do you think you're ever going to go at it as you would have done in your 20s with the experience that you'd accumulated thereafter? Because at 16 you've got no experience, have you? So exactly.
So you need to have the support and guidance at school. And we hear of kids who are like 8-9 years old with their own businesses, you know, buying and selling sweets at school and things like that. If it's in you, it's in you. I didn't come from a business family. I still don't. You know, there's nobody in my family who'd run a business, so I had to learn the hard way. So that's why I know, and I've been a business mentor for many years now, and I've mentored all kinds of business people, because I've walked the talk. You know, I've been there, I've done it, I've made the mistakes, I've been very successful, and I've also done some really stupid things. We didn't have systems, we didn't have processes, we just had money coming in and we spent money going out. That was it. That was our lifestyle. We had no accountant to speak of, you know, and that's the way things were. But then in those days there were no mentors, bank managers, accountants. There was nobody there to support you like there is today. So today there's no excuse. There's lots of support out there.
Yeah, but the networks. Yeah, there is.
No networks. No
right.
Networks.
So
no internet.
Nothing. Yeah. So now, okay. So Elaine Godley, have you got a name for your business?
My new website is. Well, I've got my Facebook group, which I've got 3,000 people in there, which is a health Facebook group, because I've learned so much. I'm a qualified nutritionist and psychologist and lots of other stuff as well. So my Facebook group is called Perfect Health Wellness Club. So Perfect Health Wellness Club on Facebook. Then on, I'm just relaunching. I have a website called perfect-health.co.uk, but I'm just launching DISC profiling by Elaine Godley. That will be my new style, because I've been doing DISC profiling for over 20 years, but I've never promoted it. I'm now starting to promote it, because that's over everything I've done. If you don't know who you are, then you're on a hide into nothing, and life is a lot harder. So I've decided that I'm, you know, going full circle, and I'm going to help the youngsters of today.
So do you operate at your office from there where you are now? Is it easy for you to do this in such a
Everything's online
remote
now.
way with the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, everything's online. So yeah, the whole bit, like we're Zooming now, that's how I deal. I offer all kinds of health assessments now: dried blood analysis, hair mineral analysis, nutrition reviews, mentoring, health mentoring. I'm primarily looking towards helping business owners with their own health and well-being. But because I've got the business background, I understand, you know, where they're at, but also in supporting young people. So I'm kind of both ends of the spectrum, helping those that have made it to stay there and to get better, and those who are thinking about getting on the business ladder, you know, at the earlier stages. So hopefully with the experience that I've had, and I used to lecture in schools and colleges and all sorts of years gone by as well, on the well-being and business stuff.
So of course, going forward, I mean, I personally think that that thing that we had growing up, where you went into a job for 40 years, that's gone. And I strongly believe, people have to have several streams of income. You've got to, in order to, well, function in society, communicate with different sorts of people without pigeonholing yourself to one area. With the internet, social media being so prevalent in our lives, people have got to get on board with it. Now, I don't know if that's something that you think is the way forward going for. How do you see business going forward? Now this COVID-19's occurred and thrown everybody, you know, under the bus, as it were. How do you think going forward? Because I personally feel that online is the way it's going to be, and we have to strengthen those foundations of our business and personalities online in order to make ourselves a success going forward. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's not negotiable. Online, you can't do anything now unless it's online. Bank accounts, any form filling in, anything you want to do, it's online. Any advert you look at, you have a website address there. The older generation who aren't online really struggle, and it's going to be very, very difficult for anybody who doesn't know how to use a computer. But then again, the younger generation are born with iPads in their hand, aren't they? You know, they're born with mobile phones attached to them, with these pod things in their ears.
Correct.
It's a completely new generation now. It's a different way of life, and us oldies have to embrace it. And that's another thing that I'm really proud of myself. I've taught myself all kinds of technology things which I never would have dreamed about. And lots of my peers, actually interestingly, a lot of my peers to this day don't do very much with IT, and 20% of them are dead. We had a count up recently. 20% of the people I was at school with have died. Isn't that horrific?
Wow. That's crazy. This is the thing, you see, and it's, you know, people say you have to be very aware, and I know I'm quite direct like you. It sounds to me like I'm a DI, as you've just been profiling for yourself. And people do say, oh, Buckso, you can't say that. Oh, we don't want to scare anybody. Yeah. It's not about scaring people. We're not here to scare anybody. We're here to tell you and give you the shake. Wake up. The bus is leaving. You better get on it or you're stuck here. Why wouldn't you want somebody to wake you up so you don't miss your journey, your transport into your next journey, you know, where you're going? Why wouldn't you want somebody to do that for you? And this is the thing that people say, oh, we don't mean to scare you. You know, don't be worried. No, you need to be concerned. You need to be concerned about where things are going and what you're doing about your life and your business. I've never been so interested in boosting my immune system now, because I do take an immunosuppressant as somebody who suffers with rheumatoid arthritis. So my appointment's been cancelled end of May, that I go for every 6 months. So I'm left here thinking, oh, what do I do? And if I was somebody lesser, I would probably just be like in pain all the time and not know where to look or who to speak to and where to find, because I don't like technology, or I'm not a fan of, I don't read that I don't watch that sort of stuff, you know. And how many of us are in our own way? Yeah. How many of us are in our own way right now?
Yeah, I've done it before. I've got in my own way, you know, lots of things. I mean, one of the things that, you know, about coming out here, the land is so different to green lush England, and there are snakes here. For years I've been scared of snakes, and that's one of the things that I couldn't cope with, because when Maggie showed me 2 years ago the land, one of the lands she's bought lots of different plots of land for different projects, and one of them I wouldn't walk around with her. I was so scared that a snake was going to come out. Now I'm almost like looking for them. I've decided they're just big worms, you know.
But are they poisonous? Let's not be silly. Are
No,
they poisonous though?
no, they give you a nip,
That's the
I'm
thing.
sure.
That's the thing. You know what, Elaine? It's been amazing chatting with you, and I would love to talk more. And I'm sure we will going forward. There's no doubt about that. But we know what the human mind is like, and keeping entertained for too long. And let's leave them wanting more. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. And folks, I will put all the links that Elaine spoke about on the post as well when I share this out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Buckso.
Speak to you
Take care.
soon.